Okay, so hey guys, I'm Teegan Bartos, career coach and founder of Jolt Your Career. I typically work with mid to senior level professionals, but since the pandemic, I've been trying to help as many job seekers as possible. So I've been volunteering to teach resume workshops, LinkedIn best practice workshops, um, networking workshops, and I've done over 200 complimentary resume and LinkedIn reviews. I post almost daily job seeker tips, but even with my 10 plus years of experience working as a career coach for Department of Labor agencies, owning my own company, having continuing education classes from two of the most prestigious career associations around the globe, job seekers still want to know what the gatekeepers and decision makers are thinking. So I reached out to my network to ask for volunteers to help you with your job search. So today I have with me Joe, who's a sorcerer at Facebook, obviously a Fortune 50 tech company. So some of you might be thinking, what is a sorcerer? So
Yeah.
Joe, why don't you go ahead and explain what a sorcerer is?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. Definitely happy to help out and just kind of offer whatever tips and tricks I can. But if you want to take a look at recruiting as a whole function or talent acquisition, there's kind of the front end and the back end. The front end is kind of more research based, and that's what I do. I'm a sorcerer. So I'll find passive candidates that haven't applied, candidates that are just kind of like, I'm happy in my role, but if something were to come along, I'd be more than willing to hear you out. So there's research involved in that, not just from the perspective of like mining LinkedIn for candidates, but also, competitive intelligence, who's maybe laying off, who's maybe seeing a bit of, who's maybe in crisis right now. So for example, when GM was laying off a number of candidates, we decided to pursue them in a previous role with Allstate because they fit the bill for for positions that we had. So I will handle the process from for passive candidates, most of the time referrals. So if you have a friend in the industry that refers you, I will also handle that. I'll do the initial set of questions, kind of the behavioral stuff, and then I'll pass that off to a recruiter. Recruiters generally handle like the on-sites. They'll be doing salary negotiations. They'll talk to you about compensation packages, total reward packages, things like that. Whereas I'm on the front end of things. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. So you work at Facebook currently. You used to work at Allstate. So is this something, a sorcerer, is that a sorcerer role more geared towards like Fortune 500 companies, like larger companies?
So companies that generally have the financial means will separate sourcing from recruiting. And the reason for that is because, if you have a dedicated team that can research, that can find passive candidates, it helps recruiters do their job better. And it will help just funnel in the best candidates. But if you're a smaller corporation or if you're a smaller company, it's a lot tougher to kind of say, hey, we're going to divide the responsibilities. That's when you'll see the term full cycle recruiter, where they'll be doing the research, they'll be doing the passive candidate outreach, and taking them through the offer stage.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So as a sorcerer, how do you find passive candidates?
Sure. So the best kind of way to find candidates are going to be our internal CRMs. So that's why I always tell people, hey, if you find a job that you like, whether you're qualified for it or not, apply for it, because your information stays in our internal system. So maybe right now you might be a year or two short. Maybe you interview for it, but you're just shy. Your information stays there. And if your company has a great sourcing and recruiting function, they will scan that internal CRM for every search, for every open position. So that's the first thing I'll do. The second thing I'll do is I'll scour LinkedIn, by doing simple searches. I'll look within my network too. So another plug here, build your network on LinkedIn. I know it can get a little annoying sometimes and frustrating, but if I were to add you, Teegan, now your first connections are people that I'm connected to. So if I am doing a search, those people will show up because low-hanging fruit is like the best way to go. So So build those connections, build that network on LinkedIn, and apply for those jobs. Like even if you're not going to get it, apply for it, get on their radar, and it will pay off eventually.
Okay. So what stands out most to you on LinkedIn? Like when you're doing a search, so do you just like type in keywords and then a list of candidates come up, basically your first connections first, then second, then third, then fourth?
So it's going to look a little bit different. So I have a LinkedIn recruiter account, so that allows for me to do a bit more of an in-depth research. Obviously, reach out to candidates without having to have without needing to have them as a connection first. So I'll use what we call a Boolean search. So I'll look for a set of characteristics, keywords that I'll plug in within a certain radius or within a certain specified state or whatever the case may be. And then from there, I will kind of dig through their characteristics on their profile and just see exactly if they have what it takes or if they meet my minimum qualifications. What stands out as a strong profile is a profile that's filled out and robust. Now, I'm not saying that it has to be like exactly like your resume, but it's really nice because, some people like to keep the resume to like one page, use shorthand. You can get a little crazy with your LinkedIn if you want. You can add websites, projects that you've worked on. You can get recommendations, you can be endorsed. There's a number of things you can add. So Google has this, it's one of their, it's like an internal kind of slang that they have. They're called +1 attributes. And that's what I love looking for in a candidate. It's great. Like, so I source for product design at Facebook.
Okay.
So, for me, it's one thing if it's like, yeah, I went to school for product design. I had, I was in a bunch of clubs that help with product design. Here are all my projects that I've worked on. And I'm with an agency or whatever the case is, and it's all product design. Like, that's fantastic. Like, I know that I know that you're good at what you do. But a +1 attribute would be like, I'm an adjunct professor. Or it's like, I have a lot of volunteer experience, whether it's related to your field or not. It's really great to know that, like, when I talk to someone and if I'm going to work with them, that they have so much to bring to the table to add to the company culture, to add to the team and make it welcoming. And in many ways, selfishly, when we add candidates like that to our team, it makes my job so much easier because it's like, oh my God, great culture, great everything. So fill out those LinkedIn profiles, really, really stress your metrics. I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself here or not.
No, you're good.
Really stress the metrics. If you're looking for something in sales, all about measurables. Like, really focus on like, what were your targets? Did you exceed goal? Did you add new clients? Things like that. If you're a recruiter, talk about some of the fills that you have. You could talk about special projects that you've been on, things like that. And then, another thing you could do to kind of help if you're still kind of building out your profile or maybe jumping into a different function, is to just look at maybe 4 or 5 job listings for, like some of the top companies. So if you're going into sales for, let's say technology, like go to CDW, see their job descriptions, and then add those keywords to your profile. So that way, when they search for it, they're going off of that job description. It's not very different internally. They will look up your profile and find it. So those are little tips to kind of get the attention of recruiters.
Do you like keyword? I mean, obviously, because of how LinkedIn's algorithm works, having keywords in the header is important, especially for job seekers, so they can increase those search odds. But do you like a tagline being in the headline too, or does it not matter one way or the other if it's just keywords?
To be honest with you, I personally like a little bit more than less. I've had candidates that have had next to nothing on their profiles and just be phenomenal candidates. But it's more than likely that a candidate with a nice, robust, like, tagline and everything, it kind of just gives me a little bit more to kind of go off of. So if it says, actively seeking or, actively looking, and in some cases it's like, buzz off. I don't want to talk to anybody. I love my job. It's a great way to know that I don't want to bother you. Like maybe I just want to add you as a connection and just kind of save you for later. So yeah, the more the better. But obviously you don't want to get like too crazy and drown out like the message of your success. So, if you're going to get wordy, I would recommend doing it in the body of your resume or LinkedIn.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So another way you said that you source for candidates is by referrals, and like statistics show that the majority of roles are filled by referrals. So how does that process work? How do you get referred?
Sure. So it works. It's a little bit different with every company, but the idea is there's someone that is on the inside that's willing to vouch for you. So Facebook's referral system is very robust. Basically, if you're referred into Facebook by an employee, there will be at least one sorcerer and or recruiter looking at your profile. So they'll just say, hey, this candidate was referred to us for the product design space. What do you think? I'll say, hey, great portfolio or great candidate. I'll go ahead and talk to them. Or, maybe they just don't meet the requirements as of right now. But I'd definitely like to visit them in a year or something. The benefit to this is that you're in our system first and foremost. You're guaranteed to get looked at. And sometimes the answer is no, but that's just the risk that you run, whether it's right away or maybe you don't get the job. But in other companies, it's just it's really difficult to kind of move along in that process. They may not have it all internally built out, but I always say if you can get a referral, get it. If it means adding a connection and then building a relationship and then asking for one eventually, or you just know a friend or a cousin or whatever, definitely do it. There's no shame in that. It's we love it. We love to know that it's like, hey, there's more to this candidate than what's on paper, and it certainly helps if your friend or your connection is also successful at what they do. So there's like a little bit more weight behind their referral.
Yeah, that might be a good piece to have.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give job seekers right now that have been impacted by the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it's a terribly tough situation to be in. No one's denying that. As a company, and I'm speaking for Facebook, and it's something that I'm passionate about. It's just, we are not trying to poach people. It's just kind of like, hey, there are some candidates with excellent skills that really need a job. Obviously, it's beneficial to both parties. But it's companies recognize that it's tough right now. So it's a great time to just really build a network. Even if you are employed, build a network. Really, really, do your homework on companies that are just like really kind of, going through their ups and downs. Because you never know, like as someone that is employed, you might be able to get that dream job later, sooner than you thought. But if you are unemployed, my suggestion to you is always going to be like numbers based. It's kind of like you kind of have to like reverse engineer things a little bit, but 5 applications a day, Monday through Friday, it's 25 applications a week, 100 applications a month. I know that seems like an insane number, but it's not like it was before where you're like writing everything in, especially if it's on LinkedIn, the LinkedIn apply button, you click it and it basically parses all your information in for you. And you just have to, go through like the the identification process. I mean, it really, the worst it could be is maybe like 5 to 10 minutes of your time. Now I understand if you're like a director level, senior vice president, that kind of thing, that application process looks a little bit different. But those jobs are also limited. So maybe bring that down to 2 or 3. But like, one of the misconceptions here is that like, hey, I lost my job and the market looks really bleak. I'm just going to take whatever I can get. It's not a bad mindset to have just because, bringing, putting food on your table is, important first and foremost. But you don't have to sell yourself short either. There's still companies that are doing just fine. So look for those jobs, apply for those jobs, or apply to those jobs. And a great way to kind of increase your success, obviously a referral would be great. But if you don't have a referral, think about like, and I'm just going to use like a business development representative as an example. Find someone that's in sales or business development in each of the roles, add them. Find a recruiter, find a sorcerer, add them. And then send them a message. You can actually type one out before you even send them the networking request. And it's a great way to just say, hey, I'm looking to break into sales, or hey, I'm looking for a position in sales. I see that you have a pretty great history. I was hoping I could network with you. And I've done this where I was trying to switch roles, switch verticals. And I just sat and had like a virtual cup of coffee, like a 5 to 10 minute conversation. It turned out that it wasn't the right fit for me, but it's someone that I have in my network now, which is great. So between what you do to network, or to build your network rather, and just like the sheer volume of applications, likely within a couple months, the interview process can vary, but within a couple months you'll likely have interviews. Within 8 weeks you'll have interviews. You'll probably have some rejections, probably have some offers, but really it's just about keeping that momentum going. It's really easy, especially in a pandemic where you're isolating yourself from friends and family, and you're not like doing the things that make you happy. Like for me, I love going to movies. I haven't been in the theater forever and it's driving me nuts, but it can put you in a really dark headspace.
Yeah.
So this if you put this on your list of things to do, this could really help kind of like boost your mental health a little bit, just being like, hey, I did it. I applied. I took the first step.
Celebrating those small wins.
Yeah, exactly. And then, just really, I know this doesn't really have anything to do with like directly the job search, but like, don't forget to be yourself, right? Just, get out, be active, do the things that you're allowed to do anyway. So that when you do get the opportunity to interview, you're kind of full of that energy and you have like still that passion for what you're doing and what you're looking to do. So that's really important. It's very easy to kind of see the energy and feel the energy of candidates when they interview.
Yeah, my husband Leon is an executive recruiter and his office is right there.
Yeah.
And so I overheard his frustration a little bit, and he probably shouldn't be saying this, but hopefully nobody can find who he is. But that is something that candidates have been struggling with when interviewing. I mean, they're these top tier candidates, and then they go into the interview process and their morale is just low, their energy levels low, their personality is just kind of really dry. And then the hiring manager is trying to decide, well, is this person the best fit? Because they're not seeming like it.
Yep.
So that's great advice. So you do initial interviews. So what is it like when you're interviewing somebody? Is it virtual? Is it over the phone?
Oh, sure. So for me personally, it's going to be on the phone. We don't do video chats for that initial round of interviews. And to clarify, that's going to be kind of like the pre-screen or just behavioral stuff, like just making sure that, the initial things kind of line up. Do we as a company offer you what you want? And then you as a candidate, do you offer us what we want to just at least, keep things moving? It's over the phone. Generally speaking, it's about 15 to 20 minutes, but sometimes you just kind of get lost in conversation. I'm a very chatty type, so it can, go well into 45 minutes, but it's all going to be behavioral, kind of like tell me about yourself. What are you currently working on? What does your team look like? What are your responsibilities? And then depending on whether it's technical or non-technical, they may dive into that a little bit, but yeah, it's very on the surface. It's nothing like, hey, let's grab a whiteboard and do some problem solving exercises or anything like that. It's rarely the case. Yeah.
So what do you like to hear? Hey.
Hi, I know I'm here. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. You look so good.
Thanks. I hope you like how you look too, because you're about to be viral.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh man, that's no.
About to be in trouble, Joe.
COVID. This is what happens.
Love
Uh,
it, love it. So when people are doing that initial like tell me about yourself,
yeah.
how important is that initial elevator pitch? I've seen so many different numbers thrown out there. Like one of them, I saw that 50% of companies can gauge whether or not the person would be a good fit within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. So to be honest with you, I don't really follow that, and maybe it's just because I'm not the best at my job. I don't know, but it's just like, to be honest with you, I personally, I just feel like it's nerve wracking as it is, right? To just kind of be like, I need to talk about the most important thing in my life and boil it down to like 5 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever the case is. But what I like to hear is really just passion, right, for what they do. So when I talk to a candidate, just using like a very general example, if they're just kind of like, yeah, I got into the world of design, early on, like right out of college, I was really into like, visual and print media. And then as soon as like as soon as the mobile revolution started, I was all about apps and mobile and et cetera, et cetera. Like, I love to see that there's like a story to it. Sometimes like the story just isn't that interesting. And that's when I like to kind of, go into like the details, like what kept you here? What are you working on that's got you excited? Things that I really dislike is just a very like, I love confidence, but I don't like the cockiness. Like I had candidates before in an interview, not my interview, but like the next round of interviews that basically separates them from a pre-screen and an on-site, refer to their work as their magic, and it's just like, this is my magic, I created this with my wand. And I was like, I don't know what that means, just, I'd like to know about your process. What were your decision making? Like, I really like to know, really, it's just like, your day to day, are you just kind of showing up and doing what you have to do to leave? Or are you just like, work, like this is what I do. I love to put my name on the on every project that I do. That is what I love, that zeal, that passion. And yeah, I mean, it's really tough to kind of come back from like a very bad first impression.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so that's why I always say, like, just if you're doing an interview early in the morning or whatever, don't let the interview be the first conversation that you have that day. That's a bad idea. Like, I personally have like a thing where I'll talk to my wife, or I'll talk to a friend, and then I'll listen to stand-up comedy. I know it's really weird, but kind of gets like the wit going, kind of gets everything cranking, endorphins, from laughter and all that. So I like to make sure that like I'm on and like just ready to go. So those are things that I would highly recommend, even at the pre-screen stage, because it really makes a difference.
Awesome. So totally random question.
Yeah.
I had a fellow career coach reach out to me because one of my corporate clients that I work with is a cannabis company.
Yeah.
And she was asking my perspective on what does it look like for new grads who are targeting cannabis companies, but would also consider going into other industries.
Yeah.
Just like the cannabis industry, because it's booming, but would consider other things. Do you think, not does Facebook think, do you think that somebody who follows cannabis companies, or who has made comments or published articles about, maybe back office things with programming in the cannabis industry, or setting up processes, or maybe even like on a scientific level, do you think that would be a deterrent to getting into like a healthcare company or to a tech company?
So for me personally, I've been really fortunate to work for companies that are very just liberal and very open-minded to these things. The way I see it though, is that it's just like, again, not to get like too political or anything like that, but if you can work for a pharmaceutical company, if you can work and sell some of these drugs, I don't really see it as anything really that much different. It's a booming industry, and whether people want to accept it or not, cannabis is here, and it's likely not going anywhere. So, Facebook specifically, they really don't care. And me I mean, obviously, if it's like ruining your life, if you're like posting pictures of yourself, just kind of the influence and all this stuff, like, okay, maybe that's a little too far, but like as a sorcerer, as a recruiter, that does not deter me at all.
Okay.
It's the next big thing, and I totally understand how people want to get in at like any level, whether it's like sales or, like you said, developing apps, whatever the case may be. There's probably like an Uber for marijuana delivery just in the works right now as we speak, and I wouldn't deter anyone from doing that.
Okay, awesome. Another question that I have recently been asked is, how do you stay in a recruiter's mind without being annoying, without being a pest?
Great question. I actually just reaped the benefits of this right now. Not right now, meaning like earlier this week. So there's been a company that I've always kept in touch with. The first just interaction that I had with a recruiter was just perfect. Like, she asked the right questions. She proved that she actually looked at my resume, my LinkedIn, and we had a great conversation back and forth. Unfortunately, location just didn't work out, but over the years, just every 6 months, maybe a year, I'll just kind of reach out and just be like, hey, just wanted to check in, see if see how things are going. I saw that you got a bump in a title. I wanted to see if there's anything remote available, or maybe you're opening a Chicago office or something along those lines. And you just kind of do that. Just keep it very simple, very, very just casual. If it's just kind of like, hey, I saw these 8 openings, like, can you refer me? Can you refer me? Can you refer me? That's going to be a little bit different. That's going to be different. I always recommend, whenever you talk to anyone from any company, add them on LinkedIn right away, send them a quick note. Whether it's, if you can get an email from them, that's even better. But if you can just send them a quick note, like maybe a little quip about something that you talked about, it's always good to just kind of end things on a positive note. And then depending on your situation, whether it's actively looking or passively just kind of like, hey, I saw something on your site, maybe every 6 months, just kind of shoot a quick message, just see how things are going. And I think that is perfectly acceptable. Like I said, it paid off really big, paid off for me in a big way. I love it when candidates keep in touch with me. I had candidates that didn't make it through their interviews that will just shoot me a quick message. Hey, saw this position was open and available. What do you think? I'll put them in process and we'll see what happens. So yeah, I would say just every 6 months, if it's just a general check-in, but if you see something, I think it's like an as needed basis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another like personal opinion question that's come up recently is on LinkedIn to put open to work, that green little circle around your picture, or make it look like you're still employed, just not change the fact that you've been laid off, so you look like you would be a passive candidate over an actively seeking candidate.
Sure. So I know for a fact that, like, the last few positions that I've held, if we saw someone was like looking for new opportunities or open to relocation, we reached out to them right away. The pandemic is different, obviously. It's a very different circumstance. Like, I just kind of assume that if you haven't been laid off, your company has been affected or impacted in some way. And that you would most likely be open to talk. But I'm, again, not to, toot my employer's horn, but, we are also like giants in the design business, right? So a lot of people love to end up here at some point in their career, because if you add it to your resume, it's a big deal. But the way I see it, though, is like, if I was still back at Allstate, if I was with, Jobplex or whatever the case may be, I would definitely still contact those candidates, because I don't see that as a sign of weakness. I don't see that as anything other than like, hey, this is, it's my professional career, and you got to do what you got to do to kind of advance it. So if you have to, literally put up a lighthouse beacon, like, it is what it is.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So what haven't I asked you that you think job seekers should know right now?
Really, it's don't lose faith. Like, you'll get a number of rejections. Like that's just part of the game. It's as much as we like to think like, oh man, I'm like the first and most qualified, chances are you're like the 20th and maybe like the 30th most qualified, right? So it's really tough. It's really tough for recruiters, sourcers and everyone to really give everyone a fair shot. It's in my best interest to get you employed, from a metrics position, like from a metric standpoint, like for every offer that's made, for every offer that's accepted, that looks good on me. So if you speak to us, just know that we have every intention of trying to place you. So it would just be to not lose faith first and foremost, but second, really, really take this opportunity to build your network. It is a prime time to do it. Add those, add yourself to those groups that are specialized. So whether it's like sales, or if you, identify with like an underrepresented minority group, things like that, join those groups, really, really leverage your network. And also, this is also a great time to just be like, hey, maybe my position isn't, or maybe my company isn't quite, recession proof, or like, whatever proof. It's just, you could always think about this opportunity to just maybe jump into another field of, of work. So, if you were to jump on Coursera, there's a number of different courses you could take. I think you pay like, I don't know, $50-$60 like for certifications on like smaller things. Some of those certifications, like they'll say it takes a week. You could probably knock it out in a weekend. Add it to your LinkedIn. And so that way, if I were to jump into sales, for example, like tech sales, I'm not a total noob. I could say, hey, I have quotas for my recruiting, but I've taken, LinkedIn sales navigator courses. I've taken Google's like marketing or adware courses, like whatever the case may be. Always a great thing to add those little nuggets to your resume and your portfolio, because it just shows that it's not just you trying to, get a better paycheck. Like you actually care about this. And what else can I say? Just build that network, get those courses in, keep applying. Don't lose that faith. Just keep doing it. And I'll even tell you this much, like if we use like, Airbnb, Lyft, and like Uber as an example, candidates had offers that were rescinded. So I say keep actually applying until you sign and you start.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Right. Yeah. So just keep it going. Don't stop. And if, like, let's just say that, someone gets back to you and you've already started, and that happened to me, just politely decline, like don't ghost them. It's not a good idea. Politely decline, add them on LinkedIn, keep their email, thank them for their time, because you never know if you have to come back to them again later on.
Right.
So really just build that network. It's so important, and it's like very, very, it's a very underrated skill to have.
Awesome. So what type of candidate, whoever may be watching this right now, what type of candidate should be reaching out to you?
A candidate that is just very passionate about taking their career to the next level. I don't really like to say that I'm selling you a job. It's an opportunity. Again, using Facebook specifically, and this is kind of my pitch for candidates that are like on the fence, or they're just kind of like, I'm perfectly happy doing what I'm doing, but I want to hear you out. We're a company that allows for you to just really get your message out, and whether it's in the form of your work or otherwise, in a big way. Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, these are some of the biggest names in the tech in the tech field, right? So if you really are ready to take your career to the next step, like I can help you do that. I can give you the opportunity to really enact that change. We don't need to get into like the ups and downs of Facebook's been going through, but like I said, the work that we do is great, and the work that you do is great. So it's a great way to just have an opportunity to kind of like match up.
Awesome. Okay, Joe. Well, thank you so much for volunteering your time. I'm sure all of the job seekers who are watching this are really going to appreciate your advice, especially when it comes to LinkedIn, because there are so many like
Mhm.
Insta famous, very attractive Insta famous models
Mhm.
who are coming over to LinkedIn and are like, hey, do this. And it's like,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
don't do that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. That's
helping
wild.
them cut through the BS, the noise, to really know what it
Yeah.
is that you guys look for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sorry, just a couple more tips. When and if you find a new job, make sure that you have a job description for your job. It really makes filling in your resume and your LinkedIn way easier. You can just kind of, cut and paste some of your responsibilities and then fill in your metrics later. And the other thing is, I think I briefly mentioned this, but if there is a role or an industry or a company that you're looking to get into, look at some of their top employees, look at their LinkedIn, and try to mirror just like how robust it is. So talk about talk about metrics, talk about all that. But if it seems like the trend is, for this company to have way more robust LinkedIn's, or if you find that a number of a number of your connections have recently found new employment, take a look at what they're doing, take a look at what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong. I usually don't tell people to compare themselves against other people, but when it comes to like the quality and the information that you're putting out on your resume and on your LinkedIn, definitely do it. Make sure that it's up there. Make sure it's updated. It can get a little annoying getting outreach from recruiters and sourcers like me, but like I said, it's better to have that information out there than to not have enough of it and being passed over.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
I definitely think that's what job seekers want right now is
yeah,
recruiters and sourcers
yeah.
coming to them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So get that in, and then like I said, just if there's anything that I can do to help out, I'm obviously more than willing. And also, I recommend just reaching out to recruiters, reaching out to sourcers, reaching out to people that you know in HR, and having them, take a look at what you're bringing to the table. Ask for tidbits of wisdom and advice. Now's not the time to be proud. It's a really great opportunity to really build your brand, especially in this downtime. So yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. Such an unfortunate situation, but there are so many opportunities at the
So
same
many,
time.
absolutely, so many opportunities. So it's not all bad. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
All
All
right.
right, Joe, well, I'm gonna let you get back to that sweet little baby of yours.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. I will talk to you later.
Absolutely. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.